managing broker here at Lair Realty Partners in Bow, New Hampshire. This is my co-host,
Keith Valancourt.
Today we're starting with the fraud.
Yeah, you brought this one up to me today. I thought that was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, so apparently in the last month of May, there were two major fraudulent listings that were put out on Zillow. The first one was a senior prank, which I actually think is hysterical.
Surprised, actually, when I read it, I was surprised that doesn't happen more often.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it sounds like a good senior prank. They basically listed their high school for sale on Zillow, which is pretty funny. And, you know, the response from the school board was kind of like, this one wasn't bad in comparison. You know, no property was damaged.
Past, exactly.
Yeah, like nobody got hurt, whatever. But the truth is that there is a lot of scamming that's going on. And Zillow, specifically, they were talking about Zillow has a lot of supports in place to try and catch this stuff, both human screening and AI, etc. But it is important to be really careful. I don't know, have you experienced, I know I personally have gotten calls where my listing, that someone has stolen the listing pictures and posted it on Craigslist as a rental.
Oh, I have not had that happen to me. That's
yes,
interesting.
and they call, the people call me and they say, hey, is this really for sale? But actually, my brother-in-law, when they went and sold their first house, someone had got scammed. They went there, the buyers of their house showed up, and there were two young mid-20 girls there trying to get into the house, and they were like, we paid our deposit, blah, 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 and they'd never been in the house. And this happens all the time. So those are some of the things they mentioned to really look out for. Is like, if they ask you to pay fees up front, you know, that real estate agents aren't ever going to get paid up front. And without a contract, you shouldn't be paying for a rental or a sale. So there should be no fees required up front. Obviously, if they're asking for Social Security or sensitive information, you probably don't want to give that. This was an example where those girls, virtual tours only. Yeah, okay, during COVID, we did virtual tours, but don't rent or buy a house that you can't get into.
Sure.
It's a little crazy. I like this one too, a same listing with different names. So if you go to Zillow and you see 123 Banana Street and it's listed by Joe Schmo, and then you go on to Trulia and you see 123 Banana Street, but it's listed by Susie Homemaker, that it should always be listed kind of by the same
Something
person.
funky going on with one of those too.
Yeah. And
yeah, price is too good to be true.
Yes.
Usually it is, or there's something up with the house.
Well, that's what I've seen in the ones where they're stealing listings. It's always like these cute, smaller homes, ranches, 2 to 3 bedrooms in great condition, and they like want to rent them at like $1,500 a month. It's like, you can't even get a 2-bedroom garden style.
Right.
For that. Like,
Sure. And obviously, the big one here that stuck out to me was insisting that you don't use an agent. Obviously, you know, that's never a good sign when somebody's making sure you're not using an agent, because nobody should want to offer that up. You should always want to be working with an agent for sure.
Or like, can I bring my dad? And they're like, no. You know, you're like, well, you know, I'm gonna bring a trusted advisor. I will say there are some builders who will tell clients that they will not work with your agent. I don't know that that's fraud, but I do think it's shady.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody has the right to be represented, and for you to builders that just want to save money by going directly, it just leaves the consumer at risk to be taken advantage of, to be honest, because, you know, there's a lot that you learn in a real estate transaction, even more in a new construction where there's add-ons and builds and time frames, and your agent is there to advocate on your behalf. So when a builder says, I don't work with agents,
most agents have been through it. They've seen it. They know what's required or what the builder should be doing. So it's a good insight. A lot of times, a builder will be talking to somebody that's been renting their whole lives or have never been through the process. They don't know what to look for. So agents are trained. We know what to look for with those type of things. So it's just it's a sketchy sign. It's just something that raises your antenna a little bit.
Exactly, 100%. So if you have any questions about
Yeah.
anything, if you're wondering like this could be real or not, give us a call. We can see everything that's legally listed on the MLS. We can do some digging for you. We can find out who currently owns the property.
And
Just
obviously,
make sure.
don't list your kids' schools
Yeah.
on Zillow or anywhere else. They frown upon that.
Yeah. So funny. So moving into New Hampshire's market specifically, you know, we've talked a lot about housing affordability, and what's driving these price increases is a lack of
Funding
inventory.
and inventory.
And so the New Hampshire State Senate just passed the state budget, goes up now to the governor, which is great. And they have really designated quite a bit of money for housing initiatives.
Yeah, it looks like $25 million to the Affordable Housing Fund.
Yeah, and part of that was creating a whole new program called the Housing Champions Fund, which is kind of interesting because I'm going to be interested to see how this plays out. So the Housing Champions Fund is designed to give municipalities, so towns, cities, the option, so they don't have to apply and receive the New Hampshire Housing Champion designation. To get that, in exchange for that designation, the town receives preferential access to state resources, including discretionary state infrastructure funds. Infrastructure being your roads, electricity, you know, that kind of stuff. So I thought that was really interesting because it's like the town applies,
right,
and then they get preferential treatment, but they still have to go.
They still have to allot the funds, right?
Exactly.
It's like somebody's getting the funds.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Sure. But it's a step. It's money coming in. It's, even though it's, you know, it's not a ton. Well, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not going to make a gigantic dent. But anything's going to help as far as trying to
yeah, I think that's a
shortage.
really good point. You know, you look at these numbers, and we didn't mention Invest New Hampshire is a $10 million that is grants and loans for builders and municipalities to develop projects that have at least 20% of the units being low income or affordable housing units.
Right.
And they have 10 years to do that. So that's great. So to your point, 25 million and 10 million, it seems like holy moly. But the truth is that's roughly only about 1,600 units. And, you know, you've heard us talk about before, we have like a shortage of 50,000 units. So, you know, it's not going to solve the problem by itself, but at least it's a step in the right